Hello and welcome to the channel. In today's video we're going to be looking at the escape sequences and when we would use them and what ones are available while we're formatting strings or the string data. So when we come down, we'll just give you a quick rundown on what all the different available string or escape sequences would be. You got the \n, your \t, \double quote, \single quote, double back. You have the \b, \r, and there's other ones, but these ones are going to be the typical regular use type of formatting and the most widely used ones for yourself. We won't get into too many more advanced stuff at this point. We'll just leave it at this. So what this actually is, what we're doing with these is Java has a bunch of key things that are used in Java when it comes down to trying to work with them. So we got these double quotes, right? And that generally signifies, and we've talked about the string, it always, when we put double quotes, it means that in everything inside of it is, double quote is inside of it, or is a string. It's a value of a bunch of characters strung together to make a word. So that's fine. We can type in this as a message, or we can say Jim said, hey, where are you going? Okay, so I guess Jim doesn't need to capitalize that, but Jim said, hey, where are you going? And in this form, if we after you said Jim said, you should have double quotes to kind of represent the quote that he was saying something, right? You notice now Java kind of gives you an error because, well, these are technically used to create strings. So when you got this here now as a string, and this one here is a string, so that's where they are, it wouldn't, this one ends this one, it doesn't technically, go here. Even if it did, then it just doesn't work out, right? So that's why we got these little escape sequences to work with. That's a single quote. But what it essentially does is we push, the backslash here and we put it there. Now it actually closes that off. It kind of says to Java, I want you to ignore this as what you generally would use it for, for a string. I just want you to, treat it as if it was just the character so that I can use it. And that's kind of the way to work around, putting these in. And I'll show you, it just prints out perfectly fine that Jim said that, if you're trying to produce say a book, something like that on, you would need to, generally you're not gonna do it this way, or it's not gonna work this way. But in the case that you need to put output where somebody said something, or you need to convey a quoted message, that's how you would go about doing that. And the same thing goes, you got the single quotes, which will work in that same regards. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that single quotes needs to be escape sequenced here. So they print out, works just fine. And truthfully, it will actually work just fine if we didn't put the escape sequence here, because it's all inside of this string. These don't really conflict with the string. They're used in a different context. But say if we were to come up here into this single character and for some reason or another you wanted to put that in there, well, the single quote won't even fit in there. And even if we kind of tricked it into, we put a bunch of spaces and put a single quote in there and we close it all down, now we want to that's supposed to be the single quote. Well, it truly won't hold it there, because now because it already uses a single quote to signify a single character. It's like this is the single quote section, so why did you do that? You added this one to the back of me. I don't even know what that's supposed to mean. So in order to, if you wanted to store that value, you would definitely need to use the escape sequence. Now again, there's a time and place for this. If you do just want to, default to using that so that, you never run into the issue if you are inside of a string and you want to, that's fine too. It still will produce the same result for you, and you're not gonna, it's not really going to harm the program or anything. It will break down if, somewhere down the line you had it inside of a sentence and it conflicted somewhere and you weren't really, you didn't notice it, but it was stored in a variable, and then you tried to print it out and the conflict happened. So just being aware of it, maybe it would be a good idea to default to using it, just so that, future doesn't throw that kind of an error at you. But again, just so you do have it there for you. And so say this one here is the same thing. In order to, put in, we wanted to go, 5, and we wanted to show that, divided by 98 is equal to, here, what is it equal to? You just wanted to put that out. You're getting an error now, because this is actually used in Java as the escape sequence, character, or a way to show that there's an escape sequence. So they expect you to, finish it off with like the stuff that's available here, the T, the N, the B. So in order to do so, you would have to just put the double backslash, and that would now tell Java to ignore the ignore it as the escape sequence, and please print out the value. And you can see this will work. And again, it's not a really big deal. I can show you the next, like another form of getting, here we printed it out. I'm kind of only just showing you that you have availability if you do want to use that slash, because if you just use that one, it doesn't matter. So again, when you're using the backslash in anything that you're going to do, then you have to, escape sequence that slash in order to print it and properly show it. So that's these guys here, the escape sequence, when we're trying to deal with, Java defined characters that are used throughout the Java programming language to, they have different meanings. We can escape them and, show them as a character. So now we have these other ones that are really helpful as well. So I'll just kind of set up a little bit of a test thing here. Say we got a table, and it's the table has the ID, an ID from something. It has in here we'll go with the name, name, and maybe an age. Okay, we're just kind of formatting a table here, and then we come down into our next line, and we'll just go print line for this one. And we want to go down here, and we say, okay, so this is the ID field. So this one is, record 001. The name of the person is Jim. His age is 56. Okay. We'll do one more record of, somebody else. Here's, record number 2. This is, Megan, whatever. She's only 23. All right. So now when we do this and we print this off, we run the program, it's going to look kind of mashed up. It's going to look not, really table-like, and one we have it up here on the next line up here. So we'll have to fix that to make it kind of look more table-like. First, we have this guy here, and it can be easily resolved with just putting the print line here, because we know already that print line will move that down to the next line for us. But this is also a new line, so if we were to type the \n here, it'll print this out, and then it will drop down to a new line because of this character here. So that'll work fine for us, and it'll drop down, and we won't no longer have this up on that. So that's our first step. It's taken care of. Kind of show you the escape sequence for a new line. And see, now before we had ID age was up here, so now drop down to the new line, and that works just fine. So now if we look, the ID should line up with the ID, the age, or the name should kind of line up with the names of everybody if we're trying to format this in a table form. And the age again should do the same. So it's kind of awkward, not really looking too formatted or too proper. So we have this T here, which is the tab. And what we can do here is we can just put these all together like so, and then just go, \T here, \T here. We can do the same down here and keep going through. And we'll just, put them, can't take the 2 away. \T there, and we'll go, no spaces, \T there. So now this will format out. We'll look at, it's got a tab now. So each of our outputs will actually more line up with a, it looks better than having it all squished together. It's got, it's in a more table type format. So it depends on what you're looking to do, and it definitely depends on the output medium that you're using. If you're just using consoles, then it's a little bit more crucial to use these escape sequences in order to format your data properly. If you got like a graphical user interface, a GUI, then you can work a little bit differently. But for now, we're where we are, and we have these available to use. And not saying that you won't use them with graphical user interfaces either, but for now, that's fine. So we got the new line out of the way right here. It just drops down to a new line. The tab here to tab over. One thing I would like to, bring up on this tab situation here. So say the tab has so many characters that it allows. If we hit, if we go here and we hit tab, there's so much space that was allowed between this situation here. So if this did get any bigger in here, like so if I went and said, ID number, just type that right there just because it's a little bit bigger of a number, and we just go like 0000. We'll just do that, right? It's a bigger scaled table, and we run this now, and this might not actually give us any kind of true problem when it comes down to it, because everything's kind of uniform and same size. See, yeah. So you'll see that it, the tab works properly because it's all kind of uniform. But say if we, if this was only 4 characters then, but the top header was a little bit bigger, just so I can kind of show you the formatting of each of these. It'll kind of mess up on you. So knowing the size of your data, you see now tab number, the name's here, but the age is underneath it, and that's because the tab has so many values. So tab could have been this big, and now this is kind of taking up that next form of where the tab should have been. So when we're here, it'll jump you to the next position where the tab will take place, and it's the same kind of thing. If we were up here and I pushed tab 1 time, it brought me to here. So ID number doesn't really fit in this space that we made here. And if we hit tab 1 more time, it brings us over to here, which now tab number brings us into about this situation. So it's kind of taking up that space. So if we hit tab 1 more time, it brings us over. So now we're taking up that much space for tab number. So we would just have to kind of know what's going on here. And in this form, just if we put another T here, we know that it jumped over so many tabs up there. Oh, I don't want to build it. Clean and build. But here we'll run it. And now you see we kind of formatted it properly. Again, this is a little bit big of a space that, it's in there, but that's still fine. It's not a big ordeal. It's not something that's gonna totally break the program, but just for your own sake. So now we go on and we'll just copy this, we'll bring it down, we'll have this here, we'll just type in wonderful, something like that, right? Now we have the \B, and the \B is a backspace. So same thing as if you were to hit your backslash, it just goes back by 1 and removes the character that's following it. So just run this, and we have 3. So essentially it's going to go back 3, remove these, and we'll be stuck there with wonder. So we'll run that. I'll just show you what that does. And there you go. See, so it backslashes or backspaces for you. And it's not widely used. It's not very common that you'll see this being used. There is times definitely where you will want to implement that, maybe a timer, or like, you got to count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and you want to show 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 on one line, and you don't want to, go down. You'll have to, there's a little bit more work involved in that, just than, typing, a 5 and a 4 and a 3 and a 2 and a 1 and with a backslash behind it, because the computer works so fast that you would only actually see the very last output. It would just be like, okay, print 5, it runs down to the next line, backslash or backspace, it prints 4, goes down the next line, and backspace, it prints 3, and you don't actually see it. So you'd actually have to like put a little bit of a timer in there or a break to kind of let the computer or the user see that being done. That's a little more advanced topic. It's not excessively advanced, but we're not going to touch on that right now. So the next one we got available is the return carriage. This one's kind of a weird one, not necessarily used too much. I'll just kind of show you what it does, and just to be watchful of it. So say we have this, we'll say hello right here, and we're not going to print line to a new line. We're just going to say hello. Same down here, we'll just leave it at the same line, and then we have the word, goodbye, printed right after hello. In technical, you should see it, with what we have here. You would think it'll print this out, hello, and then print it to goodbye right beside it, which is right. And if we put this return carriage here, okay, I'll just run this now. Show you what happens. It's kind of you see that we got just goodbye. The word hello didn't even get printed out anywhere. I'm just going to put a new line character here so that we can push that build success down one line, so we don't have to actually see it all squished to our goodbye. And I'll kind of explain what happened with this when we see it running. So essentially what happened was we get a new line here, we did our backspot, or we printed this out, backspaced it, and dropped down by a new line. Then we printed this out, so we actually printed it here. And with this return carriage, it kind of went back to the beginning of that line and then printed out that the next sequence here, for the next message. So it's kind of got a time and place for it as well. Again, it's not overly used anymore in those regards. There is definitely a time, place, a use for it, but I've done major projects that never used it at all, so not necessarily a big ordeal. Same with this, the bolt or the backspace one. It's not crazily overused, but these guys here you're gonna probably see, and they're ones that you're gonna want to know for sure that are available to you. And each one of these again do have the the ASCII, or not ASCII, sorry, the Unicode value that is referred to them, and also a numeric value. So like for instance here, if we if you wanted to use a Unicode, it takes a little more effort, and it's kind of a pain in this format. We would have to actually we'd have to make this a string value, and then we can take this out. We'd actually have to put in a concatenation here. We'd have to put this as a concatenated string as well right here. Oh, sorry, there we go. And then in order to put the quotes technically in here, because like we'll go double quotes and say these double quotes aren't actually being presented, I'll just run it and show you that really quickly, just because it's now concatenating a second line to our first line here. So it should just say Jim said, hey, where are you going, with no quotes, right? Okay, so in order to, if you wanted to use the Unicode version of that return carriage, it's a lot more work. So I mean, I wouldn't really 002, and we have to put that in absence. There we go. So go like this. We'll just copy. We'll just copy this now. We'll put it here. If we run it now, we should see the true double quotes, the double quotes being actually displayed to the screen now. And so you can see here. And that works fine too. It's a little bit more of a process, you know, when we can just do a backslash and everything works fine. Again, you can do the number version of it, which I'm pretty sure is 34. You put, you know, you typecast the numeric value to it. Now 34 will also do the same thing, which is it's essentially the same, you know, as your Unicode up here. And we talked about, you know, how characters and numbers relate to letters and how they relate to symbols and different things. And if you need brush up, there is a video on that. We'll run this now, and you know, we typecasted 34 and converted it to a char, which again, you see the, you know, the double quotes. So there's a bunch of ways to do it, but I mean, the most easiest way to go about doing this with just the quick, you know, we're done. We don't have to go all crazy anymore. We got the double quotes in there. So those are the escape sequences available, and that's pretty much it for the video. If you did like the video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you know, if you had any comments, questions, or you're kind of struggling, or you have any kind of ideas for future, just put in the comment section below. We'd like to hear from you. Be sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on those notifications so you can get the new content we upload. And thanks a lot for watching, and we'll catch you in the next video.